It's time for Agriculture, presented by Turkana Farms in Germantown, New York, a small-scale producer of heritage breed livestock and a wide array of vegetables and berries on just over 39 acres. They also produce a full array of garden vegetables, many of them heirloom varieties raised naturally, as well as an assortment of berries, including raspberries, blackberries, gooseberries, black, red, and white currants, mulberries, and elderberries. And now, here's Victoria Cox.
Hey all, it's Victoria again. Welcome to November. Does it feel impossible that it's here already? I'm starting to wonder if the reason I'm feeling so dislodged in time is that I no longer have daily tasks to do in the garden. For all of spring and summer, I could count on their steady, insistent pulse to pull me along from day to day, like a different sort of biological clock. Given our short growing window in Agricultural Zone 5A, I mapped out a stacked weekly schedule dictating when plants needed to be in the ground, and weather dictated the rest. Now that we've harvested everything except a few hardy winter greens and a scattering of pumpkins, now that the fall garlic is in the ground and the perennial beds have been mulched, the pressure is suddenly off. The clock has wound down, and now what's left are the amorphous jobs of planning and dreaming about what next season will look like. Of course, there is one project that bridges all of these. It's seed saving season. Oddly, I feel pretty ambivalent about saving seeds from my favorite crops. If I'm being honest, large-scale seed farms are much better equipped than I am for the tasks of harvesting, sorting, fermenting, sifting, and drying the seeds of our standby crops: squash, tomatoes, cucumbers, and peppers. Their scale means they can achieve both greater seed diversity and consistency within a cultivar, and they have the specialized machinery that makes the job run smoothly. Plus, have you ever smelled a bucket of overripe cucumbers fermenting to free the seeds from the flesh? It's not awesome. Other crops, like many lettuce and herb varietals, have such tiny, delicate seeds that they're incredibly difficult to capture before they drop. Sometimes this works in our favor, as with the bumper crop of volunteer dill that happily sprang up all over the west end of the garden this year. Other times, with crops like lavender or rosemary, the seeds have such particular needs that I've had better luck propagating from cuttings or buying whole plants. I also can't ignore the sheer pleasure of buying seed. In the dead of winter, pulling out a stack of seed catalogs makes me feel like a kid before Christmas. The possibilities seem endless, and our favorite distributors, the illustrious Fedco, local darlings at Hudson Valley Seed Company, my friends from Asheville at So True Seed, are always presenting new delights and possibilities. When I look at their cornucopia of offerings, the idea of doing all the work that they're so adept at by myself seems nearly futile. Seems like clipping coupons. It's frugal, sure, but are the savings worth the time and effort they require? For some really special plants, the answer is still certainly yes. This year, I got a handful of Tennessee dancing gourd seeds from the Morton Rhinecliff Library seed swap, planted 3 plants, and harvested nearly 100 tiny, beautiful gourds, striated green and brown, that spin like a top and are the perfect size for a child's pocket. I brought a basket of them to the preschool where I'm now a co-teacher, and they're a hot commodity for filling the backs of toy dump trucks, a value I never would have anticipated when I first planted them. I'm keeping their seeds, and plan to sow them as a decorative climbing vine. If the plant is weird enough or remote enough, like the Turkish pole beans that have grown here for years, it's far easier to just leave behind a few overgrown pods than to try and find a new seed source. At the moment, I've got a messy row of trays and bowls spread out on the counter, meticulously labeled and filled with 4 varieties of drying beans and heaps of radish seeds. Once I'm not constantly racing the clock, there's no reason not to. If our goal is to prioritize soil health and the health of the microorganisms and insects that build and inhabit it, then saving seed can help here as well. Exposed soil loses much of its vitality to evaporation and erosion, and any sort of cover crop we can provide will protect the soil underneath, shielding the earth and slowly dissipating into insect food. For many crops, letting them go to seed means keeping them in the ground far longer than we would typically. But if we don't have anything else to fill the space, it's worth it to leave the remnants of what came before as a shield against the elements. This isn't a metaphor, it's just practical stewardship. As tight as my planting schedule may be, I don't throw anything away if I don't have to. This is part of the process. There is a final factor that moves me, maybe more than any other, when I'm trying to decide what seeds to save. That is it delightful? We didn't have a good year for red swan beans, with rabbits constantly decimating their shoots as soon as the pods emerged. But the beans themselves are so lovely, and the climbing vines and red flowers so attractive, I couldn't help but save all the ones we had left. Next year, I'll try more rabbit deterrents, a later planting date, and more soil amendments. At the very least, I've now selected for the ones that held out against all odds. Holding a firm, dark bean in my hand, knowing where it came from and the potential it holds for next year, seems like a sort of tangible wish. If it's made it this far, it's worth it to me.
Agriculture is underwritten by Turkana Farms, LLC, a small-scale producer of heritage-bred livestock and a wide array of vegetables and berries on just over 39 acres in Germantown, New York. More information, 518-537-3815.